What's up, guys? Tommy and Paulie's Big Fight Forecast. We're here for a big week of boxing. Big week of boxing this weekend. And honestly, this week, Tommy, we got Suzaki and Norman defending the welterweight title in Japan. So this week's boxing actually starts a little bit earlier here. We got a fight at in Japan, all kinds of hours of the day. One thing I love about the streaming era of technology, even though we aren't the sharpest tools in the shed when it comes to technology, one
We're
thing
not.
is we get these fights and we're able to watch them. There's some way, somehow. Remember back in the day, we used to have to walk into the gym later in the day and figure out who won that fight earlier in the day.
Dude, back in the day, I used to have to stay up to 1 o'clock in the morning to watch ESPN to find out if Ramon Martinez got a win in Los Angeles because the game was late.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, things like that. And then I can remember, dude, late '90s going to Gleason's gym and asking, hey, how'd that fight end up on
Yeah.
the last night, or was this morning in Japan, so
Yeah.
and so forth in Japan. And somebody always knew somebody that knew somebody that had,
Yep.
given somebody the message. Well, but this is pre-internet, so there's a positive about technology and the way we're able to watch these fights, and the negative is guys like us are Stone Age, then try to
Kind
figure.
of dinosaurs.
Yeah, but. Still a lot to unpack here, man. A lot to
Yeah.
unpack here as far as odds, lines, and potential. So let's get into it. Tommy, I don't know, your view on Suzaki, but seems like a rugged guy. Seems like a rugged guy. Not exactly a gimme defense here for Norman. I know he turned down Ennis, and they wanted more money and so on and so forth. The welterweight division is not really that deep. Norman is the youngest or one of the youngest world champions in the sport today, so there's some upside there. He's been inconsistent, but had a great first defense. But this is not a gimme, man. This is a kind of for me, this is a little bit dangerous in that this is a guy nobody really knows, but he's pretty rugged and rough. I mean, I think he's 6-0 with 6 knockouts in the welterweight division.
Yeah. Listen,
His loss is at 140 pounds. For all intents and purposes, the word is that he was struggling to make 140 pounds. Not a total gimme.
no, far from a gimme. In Japan, at home, hungry. And anytime you're dealing with a guy that's a big puncher, this guy's got 17 knockouts and 19 victories. This guy's a big puncher. Watch some footage of him from you know what he reminds me of, Paulie? He reminds me of a very poor man's Arturo Gatti in the sense that borderline world-class offense, terrible defense. All right, so Gotti had that world-class offense. He had club-level defense. This guy is very explosive. He hits very hard. He mixes punches up well with the head and body, commits to the body big time. Really good body puncher, and he believes in himself. He punch with you. He's dangerous. He gambles, but very telegraphed on a lot of his shots. You see some of them coming. He doesn't camouflage them behind the jab, and very, very, very leaky on defense. This guy gets touched a lot, so Norman's going to want to be careful early. Box, use his jab, and fight this guy at range and not let this guy get too close. But far from a gimme. This guy's going to be very dangerous early.
Does this guy have the resistance to carry Norman rounds, to go rounds?
Yeah, I think he's going to go some rounds. Absolutely. Again, the one it factor is this guy's defense. You can touch him and touch him often. So can his chin stand up to Norman's power? Norman's been looking real strong his last couple of fights. He's coming off that third round knockout of the Mexican. I'm forgetting
the first defense that he had.
First defense was Cuevas.
That guy was like an Uber driver though, Tom.
Yeah, but he blitzed
that got
him in 3 rounds. He blitzed him in 3 rounds. The previous fight was a big upset. He was a big
Santillan, yeah.
Santillan.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Tommy. The previous to Santillan, there was a lot of unsuredness about Norman. He was.
Well, there was, but the wild
was good. He was good one fight. He was so-so another fight. You weren't really sure. And the Santillan fight, you were actually probably wondering if he was going to win that fight. So winning that fight really kind of broke him, brought him forward to another level, I think, in the eyes of the public.
Yeah, and I bet against him in that fight, Paulie. I mean,
I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people did.
He was a big underdog. And keep in mind, that was only maybe his second 10-rounder. This guy, up until a year and a half ago, was an 8-round fighter. Yeah. So he's only 24 years old. He is ever improving. He's 24 years old, so his last 2 performances have been very good. But this guy hasn't been 12 rounds yet, Paulie. He's only been 10-round distance, I believe, once or twice. So you're still talking about a guy that's kind of green for a world champion making a second title defense.
How many times has Suzaki had gone 12 rounds? So he's only got 20 fights himself, right?
He's never been 12 rounds himself. He's been 11 rounds. He got stopped in the 11th round. So when I think he saw an 11th round twice. I think he won by knockout, and the other one he was stopped.
Right.
So he's not a guy with a ton of rounds on his belt from an experience standpoint either.
But he starts quick.
He does start quick. And like I said, this guy's like a kamikaze pilot. This guy's going to go after him. He's going to throw big shots. He's hungry. He's fighting at home. This is
Does Norman,
this.
do we have does Norman have the discipline to offset that early on?
I think so. I think he's
Because
got
this
a
guy's a
boxer.
big underdog. I mean, this guy's like a plus 400, is he not?
Yeah, Allen is a plus, is a minus 400. Yeah, which
Well,
makes
Norman's a minus 400.
Norman. I'm sorry, Norman's a minus 400, and Suzaki is, I believe, a plus 250, 250 to 260.
And that's a pretty big underdog, you know?
Yeah, but here's my thing with that. Here's my take on that. He can only win by knockout. There's no way he is beating Norman by decision, even in Japan, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I think that that Norman could win possibly by stoppage because again, you could touch this guy a lot. This guy's very hittable, very susceptible. And you know what? I'm wondering how good his shin is because I watched a fight, Paulie, where he had a draw, a 6-round draw. He was only about 3 or 4 fights back. The guy he fought, whose name escapes me right now, was only 3-0, so he was a novice, and he held him to a draw. And Suzaki, he got dropped. He got dropped in that fight, and
Okay.
wasn't much of a shot that
Being hittable, this guy's doesn't have a long longevity regardless, you know.
Yeah, but he did get up. He scored, knocked that over his opponent to even the score, and then he walked away with a draw. So that kind of stain on your resume, and recent, by the way, because that fight was only a couple of fights back, makes me lean towards Norman. But again, Suzaki, for me, the only way he wins is by knockout, even in Japan. He can't box with Norman. There's no way. He's not boxing with Norman Jr. So Norman Jr. would be best served to try and be slick and defensively responsible, early counterpunch, and get his timing and rhythm down because, again, this guy is easy to find. But this guy is going to be very dangerous early. And, again, he mixes his punches up, Paulie, to the head and body, and he commits to the body. I've seen him score some vicious body shots. When he puts these guys down, they don't get up.
So Norman, you see Norman winning the fight, but it's a matter of whether you see it in the second half of the fight or a decision, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if for me, I bet different ways, Paulie. So I'll put a couple of different bets in, and oftentimes they'll all hit. So in this particular situation, what I like Norman on the money line. I also like the fight ending in a stoppage one way or the other. So I think the fight is gonna one way or the other. I don't think the fight goes the distance, and you're gonna get that at minus 180. I don't see it going 12 rounds either way, Paulie.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So there's a stoppage in this fight regardless.
I think there's a stoppage in this fight regardless. But if you want to cover your ass, you know what? You can also put a backup bet for just the money line on Norman.
And the money line on Norman is kind of heavy odds, which is why here at Tommy and Paulie's Big Fight Forecast, we enjoy the parlay route, you know, and the parlay route is combining certain fights with certain other fights.
And you also got to diversify.
Better odds.
You also want to diversify those parlays. You don't got to put, you can put a couple of different parlays in, and oftentimes they'll both hit. So if I'm putting a parlay in for, perfect example in this fight, I'm covering 3 out of 4 bases, right? So I want, if I got Norman to win, I want Norman to win, preferably by knockout. So guess what? I'm checking all 3 boxes there. If Norman wins, I'm winning on the money line. I'm winning on Norman by KO, and I'm winning on the fight not going the distance.
Okay.
The only way I can get hurt, Paulie, is if Norman. If Norman
is that one parlay, or are those?
I'll make 3 4 different parlays. Yeah, I'll make 3 4 different parlays, and I'll use.
So you'll use the various win methods, various win methods in those other parlays that combine them with those other fights.
Exactly, and hopefully they all hit. Sometimes 2 out of 3 hit. Sometimes all of them hit. If Norman,
because to win the parlay, you got to hit all those. You got to hit all the picks.
Yeah, but I'm talking about what I'm talking about in this specific situation. I'm talking about Norman winning. All right. So what I would do is if I'm and we'll get into the other fights later, but if I'm parlaying this with, let's say, 3 gimme fights where Norman is the tough assignment of the 4 fights, then I'm going to use maybe 3 different parlays. I'm going to use Norman on the money line, use my other 3 parlays that are gimmies. Then I'm going to use Norman by knockout, and then I'm going to use for the fight to knock with distance. God forbid he gets knocked out or he gets stopped in that situation. Yeah, at least I'm going to make up for it on that end, and I'll probably break even. The only way I can get killed here is if you lose the 12-round decision.
Yeah. Which you don't really expect considering Suzaki's lack of boxing depth. You know.
Correct, but you know, again, this is boxing. This is the theater of the unexpected. Things happen. There could be a couple of knockdowns that puts him behind on the scorecards. Crazier things have happened.
Let's look at the rest of the weekend and see what else it could be combined with. Then, you know, we're looking at parlays. You know, there's a whole weekend of fights we got coming up, right? So
yeah. So then we'll go over to so that fight is on ESPN Plus. So that fight, just to let everybody know, that fight is on Thursday.
Thursday morning.
Coast,
about on the U.S. East Coast. That's about 6 or 7 a.m. on Thursday morning.
Yeah, the card actually starts on ESPN Plus at 4 a.m. So I'd expect
East Coast time.
Yeah, so I'd expect Norman and Suzaki to fight somewhere around 7 o'clock. So that's gonna be Thursday morning, early Thursday morning.
Okay, nice.
So then we move on to Saturday, early Saturday afternoon. So we're kind of jumping all over the map now. So we're going from Japan. We're going to go into the UK, and that's going to be Yafai versus Francisco Rodriguez Jr., which is another no gimme in that one either. This is an interesting fight
Is
as well.
Rodriguez, you told me comes up from 105. Is him being smaller gonna make a difference here in this fight?
I'll tell you why I don't think so, because I saw his fight a couple of fights back. This guy went the distance with Nakatani, who's a monster, who's pound for pound on everybody's top 10 list. And at no point in that fight was he in trouble. At no point in that fight was he not competitive. So on the scorecards, yeah, he's losing rounds on the scorecards, but they were competitive rounds. I mean, he was there to fight.
Nakatani had to work every round.
Nakatani had to earn that one.
So with Yafai not having that many pro fights, Yafai, I believe is an Olympic gold medalist, right?
Yes, I believe. I don't know if he won gold. I feel like it might have been bronze, but yeah, he's got a huge.
And he also comes from a boxing family. I think he had a brother that may have also been a champion or a relative or something. But Yafai is I think this is probably the biggest career pro test for him.
No question about it. I mean, listen, he's coming. Well, his last one was Sonny Edwards. Who knows how much Bam Bam took out of Sonny, but he went out there. He had no respect for Sonny Edwards. He thoroughly dominated him, walked him down, touched him nonstop.
And Sonny's focus is hit or miss at times too. Coming off the Bam fight, who knows? With Sonny, he's one of these wild personalities.
So Sonny was the biggest name.
Sonny, you never know which version of Sonny you're gonna get.
Yeah, so Sonny was the biggest name on his resume, and arguably still would be after this Rodriguez fight. I mean, Sonny Edwards was a very accomplished world champion, but listen, Francisco Rodriguez Jr. is a two-time world champion. He unified. He won the WBO, and then he unified. I want to say it was the IBF, but he unified the titles at 105. And yes, you're talking about a small weight class, but this guy's got 47 pro fights. It's been stopped one time. That one stoppage loss was to Chocolatito Gonzalez in his 16th pro fight. So we can forgive that one.
Yeah.
Because Gonzalez at the time was on everybody's top 3 pound for pound list. He was 35-0. He was a killer at the time.
Yeah, he was unfightable.
Yeah, so Rodriguez was green, and he got stopped in the 7th round. That's the only time this guy's been stopped. And listen, he's got a lot of world class experience. These are the advantages that he has over Yafai. He has the experience. He has the world class experience, rounds in the bank and fights in the bank. And he's got 47 pro fights. The other guy's 9. So I mean, you're talking about a wealth of experience here. He is 0-3 though, outside of his homeland, outside of Mexico.
Okay, well that's big too.
Yeah.
This fight's obviously outside of Mexico.
But listen, he's dangerous. He'll punch with you. He's game the entire time.
Okay, but is he dangerous enough to pose a threat to Yafai?
To a degree, yeah. Now, because this is the thing, Paulie. When you got a guy that's 9-0 at 7 knockouts, who's been thoroughly dominating over his opponents, we don't know what kind of chin this guy has yet. We weren't going to find out in the Sonny Edwards fight. He went out there and just disrespected him because he didn't have to respect his power.
Yeah. But is Rodriguez coming up from 105 someone whose power you got to worry about at this weight?
I think so. I think he carried it. He's still storing stoppages. Not the elite level, not the level that he was doing it before, but still consistently scoring stoppages. I mean, listen, I definitely you got a favorite fight, but it's the method of Yafari's never been 12 rounds, where Rodriguez Jr. has been 12 rounds, I think 4 or 5 times. He's been the 10-round distance several times. So I mean, rounds count. Experience matters. I see this fight going late. I would almost lean towards, almost certainly, I feel like this fight's actually going to go the distance.
So it's a fight to go the distance, and Yafai on points. You see that happen. I mean, this fight's in the UK as well, right?
This fight's in Birmingham, yeah, in the UK.
So
yeah, it's on the zone.
That also makes the chances of Rodriguez actually getting a decision a bit slimmer.
Absolutely.
It's close. Yeah. So, if you're looking at the durability of Rodriguez, yeah, I could see that.
He's not only durable, probably, but he's dangerous because he punches with you. So you got to be careful with him.
Yeah.
You have to be careful to watch the incoming.
So various parlay options here could be fight to go the distance, Yafai to win on points, some ideas to maybe insert into parlays with some other results. So
exactly. So this is one of those tricky fights
for us this weekend, and remember, everybody at home who enjoy our show, none of this is betting or gambling or investing advice. Is everything we talk about here is for recreational purposes. But I think for us, what we like personally is maybe you mix it up with the parlay with Norman Norman the stoppage for Norman, and the
They need to get they need to get very good odds because Norman.
fight stoppage for fight to not go the distance. It's a safe one with Norman and Suzaki. So your safe one is fight to go the not to go the distance. That's your safe parlay. Fight to not go the distance with Norman and Suzaki, and fight to go the distance for Yafai and Rodriguez. Right, that's your safe one. Or is it safer with better odds if you go Yafai to win on points because it's in the UK and Rodriguez will never get a decision anyway.
If you're smart, you're going to mix and match. You're going to kind of go in every direction on those two. If you're going to do a two-leg parlay on those two fights, I already got them in. I'm going to put them in different directions. I'm going to put Norm for the stoppage, which is very good odds. I think it's like -105 right now. So as soon as you include your fight, now you got big plus odds. So whether you use him on the money line or whether you use him in the fight to go the distance, you're going to get nice plus odds. So you can use it both ways.
Okay.
And then you can also crisscross it where you're just going with Norman for the money line. But then you're going
guys,
with.
And guys at home, this is why we discuss things in parlay options here, is because you get better odds for it. Yes, you got to hit the whole parlay, of course, but now if you do it conservatively, where you don't have a 7,000 leg parlay, which is difficult to win. If you keep your parlays nice and tight, nice and small, you can hit them to 100% accuracy and win them and win the bet. And while also giving yourself the option of possible plus money,
Yeah, and it's exactly like you said. A lot of times we got to create our own plus money. You got to do that through a parlay because these boxing odds oftentimes are long, even in competitive fights. Both of these fights that we just talked about, very competitive fights. No gimmies in those two fights. But we're not stepping into that with plus odds. So you got to kind of create your own plus odds, unless you're shooting for the underdog.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the long shot bet. And obviously, more oftentimes than not, those don't come through.
Yeah, of course. And that's why you got to pick your spots. And that's where the props come in. The picking your spot is a lot of times the prop bets are what we like personally,
Yeah.
All right, so we got that one. That's on Saturday afternoon on the US.
That's early afternoon, so that's going to probably be somewhere. I think the undercard starts as early as like 11 or 11:30. But
the main card everybody at home, our time. We're on the US East Coast, so we're always basing our times on the US East Coast. You obviously got to base your times based on what part of the world you're watching from here. What do we got for Saturday night, Tommy?
Saturday night, what else have we got? We got Callum Walsh on UFC Fight Pass, so that'll be Saturday night.
Where is his fight?
That's in California. That's in California.
Okay.
And that one's long odds, boy. That one's.
Walsh is still a prospect who's getting those kind of going through that part of his career. But
yes.
What are we looking at as possible prop bets here?
You know what? Sometimes here's the thing, and I'll get into that. But I don't want to. Sometimes I don't want to be overly greedy. I know Callum Walsh is going to win this fight. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. 13-0, 11 knockouts. He looked phenomenal in every one of his performances. I think he's special. I mean, he's
really coming into his own as a pro.
Yeah.
And early on, I wasn't super impressed, but now he's sort of maturing into something that I think has a lot of potential.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, he's a big 154 pounder too. I mean, he's a big, strong guy. He's young. He's getting stronger. His body's filling out. And
he may wind up at 160. Who knows?
Yeah, he could. And he's a southpaw. He always had that southpaw advantage. But what I've noticed in his last couple of fights, he's really using that right hook. Just as the cleanup punch, where he'll uses the straight left hand as the throwaway, and he's knocking.
He trains that wild card, doesn't he?
That I'm not certain of. You might know that one better than me on that one.
Okay,
but
card using that right hook from the southpaw stance, that was a Pacquiao thing,
Yeah. And you know what? That's also and just going back a little bit in the Rodriguez Jr. Yafai fight. Yafai, I'm sorry, I always pronounce it wrong. Yafai.
Yeah, Yafai.
Yafai. The interesting thing about him, which I do like, is this guy's a southpaw, but he's so right hand dominant. If you watch this guy fight, jabs, hooks, uppercuts, body, head.
Could he be a converted?
Might be, because this guy is very, very heavy on the right hand and that lead hand. And I love to see a southpaw using that hook, using that right hook. And that's also what Callum Walsh brings to the table here. Callum Walsh is big on that right hook. That's what he's been stopping.
Southpaw who's lead hand dominant.
Yeah, and his opponent, Elias Espadas. Nothing special about this guy. Is coming off a draw, which is probably the best look on his resume against a 15-0 prospect. I believe that guy was from Kazakhstan, so that always means a little something.
Yeah.
But
where was the fight?
What's that?
Where was that fight? In Kazakhstan or in the U.S.?
That I'd have to look up. It was definitely in the U.S. I believe it was in the U.S. But you know what? I remember when he fought Zayas, and I think Zayas, and I've always been high on Zayas, but Zayas doesn't have any special effects. Zaya is better than average in every department across the board. Good boxer, good puncher, counter punching, head, body, so on and so forth. Uses his jab, commits to it. But there's nothing that he does that where you're watching as a casual, you say, "Wow, this guy's an incredible fighter." And Zaya stopped him in 5 rounds. So I feel like if Zaya's got him in 5 rounds, and this is when Zaya's was coming up and still a prospect, that Walsh is in a very similar boat here, where he's going to be competitive for 2-3 rounds, maybe starts breaking him down around the fourth. I think Walsh gets the stoppage here. I don't see this fight going the distance.
No, so Walsh stoppage lowered the odds a little bit, right? So now we're starting to build up some possible parlays here, which is what we like to do, right? I mean, we got fights
now
on
again,
Thursday, we got fights on the weekend, we got various options.
But just to plant that seed, Paulie, this is why I do various parlays, because more often than not, a lot of them are going to hit. All right, but the worst feeling in the world is when you hit something on a prop bet that is a -105. Let's say I pick Norman to score the stoppage, and he scores the stoppage, and I nailed that at 105, and then a gimme fight like a Callum Walsh, who is a -1400 to win the fight, ends up winning a decision because I made the prop bet of scoring, picking him for the knockout, and now I lost that parlay. So what I'll do is
you'll put in some risky picks with some guaranteed picks in the midst of the parlay,
and I'll take the risk on both. I'll put Walsh in for the stoppage, and I'll put him in with Norman for the stoppage. Sure, but I'll also
on a separate parlay. That's a separate parlay.
Yeah, I'll back that up with a bigger bet.
So you'll basically the way what I'm gathering here is you'll make some safer parlays and you'll make a little bit of riskier parlays as well.
Correct.
And safer parlays that back yourself up, because with parlays you're always gonna get plus money. So with parlays, they'll always cover you in case you lose the riskier parlays.
Correct.
And you may hit the riskier parlays and the safer parlays, and then you're making double your money.
Yeah. And that kind of brings us to the next fight, which again is another situation similar to the Callum Walsh fight. Now you're commentating this one in New Jersey. This is at the Prudential Center in New Jersey Saturday night in Newark. Vito Mielnicki Jr., who is a good-looking prospect, 21. He's got 12 knockouts, I believe. So he's not a murderous puncher.
Local kid
from Jersey. Big amateur pedigree. He's been on the scene for a while.
Yeah, in high school.
Yeah, he did. He's a young kid, and he's on the top rank, and he's fighting here at home. And listen, he does everything well. Good counter puncher, commits to the jab, goes to the body, can be very aggressive. But this is another situation where he's a big favorite. He's -1800, Paulie. So that's another layup. As far
against an undefeated guy.
What's that?
Against an undefeated
yes, he's in with an undefeated guy, but that undefeated guy, Paulie, I took a little look at him. Yeah, he's never fought outside of Poland. The competition in Poland was, a liquid-fed diet of opponents. This guy is no power, 19-0, 4 knockouts. So if he's not stopping the opposition that he's been fighting, and it's been a liquid diet in Poland.
Yeah, he's soft.
Yeah.
What do you see here?
What's that?
You see a stoppage from Mielnicki here?
I would lean more towards the stoppage, but you never know with a guy that's 19-0 that hasn't been beaten yet. You never know how good his shin is. Can he be overwhelmed? Sure, possibilities there. I think Vito wins the fight any which way.
But is the guy aggressive? Is the guy box? Is the guy
he tries to use volume. He's busy enough, but his punches, there's no steam on his shots.
Yeah.
They're slow. They
tries to use volume. It's not going to be hard to find.
That volume also is not going to be there when you're fighting a guy that's starting to swim around that world class level.
Knows how to counterpunch to prevent you from throwing those punches because you're paying for them now.
Yeah, and also the footage I watched of him, he's coming forward and being the boss. He's not going to be coming forward against Vito. Yeah. That's not going to happen. So again, that's another gimme. With Walsh and with Vito Mielnicki Jr., those two are gimmies where all you got to hit is that first leg of the parlay, whether you're going with Norman or you're going with the fight going the distance with Norman Suzaki. Now you just throw in Vito and you throw in Walsh, and those two are going to hit for sure. So you really
they're going to win. But what you're saying is just throwing Vito and Walsh.
Money lines.
Because now you're already risking on the Suzaki Norman stoppage.
Correct. You want to get a little more. You want to get a little more creative and get much better odds. Then I'm putting Walsh for the stoppage, and then I'm going to lean towards
because being that Suzaki and Norman to not go the distance is -105. Now, if you add two more pieces, 2 more legs to a parlay like that, even if they're easy odds, they're long odds, it turns the -105 into a plus.
Oh yeah, because there's a big difference between adding a -1800 and a even 450 or 500. Big difference.
Yeah. I see. All right, and that's essentially. And again, guys, we'll reiterate, none of this is gambling advice or investing advice. We just me and Tommy, we like to discuss the gambling aspect of boxing different ways to do it. Boxing can be tricky, but it can also be easy in some ways if you know how to go between the lines. Obviously long odds for a lot of matchups, so you got to go between the lines in those kind of fights. But there's a lot of boxing this weekend, guys, and so it could be a lot of fun. There's also we haven't got lines yet for Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee's also fighting on this card, right? Which card is he on? Is he on the Callum Walsh card?
He is on the card. No, he's on the card that you're doing actually at the Prudential
Oh,
Center in New Jersey. Yeah.
yes, I did see that bout sheet. Yeah, yes, he's on the East Coast. Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I didn't look thoroughly into that fight yet because again, there's no line on it, so we're
Yeah.
not covering that fight. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got added to the sports book or the sports book apps, I should say,
Yeah.
betting apps within the next day or so.
Okay. All right. All right. So that's our show for this week, guys.
No, we got one more.
Oh, what do we got?
You're forgetting about the main event on your show.
Oh, Jai Tucker, yes.
Diane Tucker against Lorenzo Simpson.
Lorenzo Simpson. That's a tough.
That's a good fight. Oh, that might be the fight of the week,
bro. That's a tough one, bro. Which way do you go here, man? Tucker.
I'm gonna get creative here. All right,
Okay.
I'm gonna get very creative here. I'm going for the upset.
What, Simpson? Oof. Oof.
How you doing? I'm going for the upset.
All right. And what's the odds on the upset here?
Plus 250. He's plus 250.
Plus 250.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's plus 265 or 270 actually.
So what with that at that point, do you even need a parlay, or could you just go for it directly?
Well, I'm always
plus 265.
Even at that, yeah, I like the plus 265, but I'm still going to include Vito Mielnicki Jr. and I'm still going to include Callum Walsh
just to
because
win.
those are locks.
Yeah, just to
So
win.
that'll get my plus 265 to plus 315, 320.
Yeah. Yeah, because those just to win, if you don't put the stoppage in with Walsh and Mielnicki, you pretty much, we view it as like that should be easy to win, just to win the fight. And then that with Simpson's interesting.
This is a good fight though.
Simpson and then Tucker are good, yeah. And
Tucker's
only lost. I think Tucker's only loss is to Floz, right?
Yeah, he got that one loss. It was a majority, and he has a draw as well.
Bro, and Floz, I've had him on Pro Box TV, man. Floz can fight, dude.
Yeah.
Floz can really fight. So that's not a bad loss on Tucker's record. So if you're saying
Tucker also has a draw on his record too as well. So he's got another blemish on his record. The thing with Tucker is Tucker's very busy. I like his punch placement, commits to their jab, commits to all the shots. But for a guy that only has 6 knockouts in 16 fights, because he's 14-1 with a draw, he's not a big puncher, but he fights like he's a big puncher. I question that ring IQ. Yeah, I question that ring IQ being there yet because,
Can Simpson punch enough to make him pay?
What's that?
Can Simpson punch enough to make him pay then?
I think so. Listen, Simpson's slick in his own right? And he can punch a little bit. He's got 9 knockouts.
Fight, bro. Honestly, that's that's the main event that I'm working at.
That is a very good fight, very entertaining fight. But it's also, Paulie, although I'm picking Simpson for the upset here, which is a bit of a long shot, but I think it's a very realistic long shot. The more realistic bet is I see that fight 100% going the full 10 rounds.
Yeah, that's a tough fight either way. For me, honestly, I mean, again, I'm calling it, so I don't make a prediction regardless. But that's a difficult fight, bro. That's a fight.
It's a good one. I'm absolutely,
which is what you like, right? I mean, when you watch a fight on TV, you like going into a fight and seeing like, oh, I like this matchup. I don't know who's gonna win. Let's see,
Yeah,
that's a nice one.
That's what makes it fun. But yeah, Simpson Tucker's gonna be a very good fight, and again, 2 slick guys that are hungry because the winner of this fight moves on to the next level. Neither one can afford a loss right now. So I think we're going to get a very good competitive fight. And you know what? For 2 guys that are slicksters, this might turn into a little bit of a war. But it's a war that I see still going to 10 rounds. I see it going the distance.
Both guys have a lot on the line, so they have to sort of put their balls on the table and at some point too.
Yeah, but but again, using that on as far as my picks go, yes, I'm leaning towards Simpson to win the fight. That's another situation where you can do 3 different parlays. However you want to do your parlays, whoever you want to include. I would go with Simpson by decision. I would go with Simpson on the money line. And most importantly, I see the fight going the distance. That's going to be the longest odds of those 3 options, but that's where you want to put a little more money to cover your ass.
Yeah.
I do see that fight absolutely going the distance.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of so this is the reason we started the show, guys. I mean, Tommy and Paulie's Big Fight Forecast. It's we obviously gambling being such a provocative part of sports now, and it's been legalized in almost all states, right? Or it is legalized in all states.
Pretty much.
There's different ways to go about it, and us being in the business of boxing, Even whether you gamble or you don't gamble, it's a hobby to talk about.
Absolutely.
And that's basically we like to let you into our conversations. We will break down fights and our picks for the fights and our thoughts on the fights more so than that. But also we discuss the gambling aspect of it as well. And again, it's not gambling or investing advice, but we like to personally ourselves just to have that discussion and you know, see the reactions and of course see the results as well.
Yeah.
Tommy's been at this for a while.
Yeah. And again, you know what? I should mention, and I honestly feel this way just from some of my bets over the years. There is a science to gambling, or a science to putting these sports bets in, and
But
that's
the way you combine your props really is
yeah. You want to do different props. You want to be creative. You want to cover bases.
yeah,
You
the
want
way
to
you
cover
combine your
bases.
parlays. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I want to give different options, not just what might be the most attractive bet or something like the best odds. So sure, what I just said with the Simpson Tucker fight, well, you know what, Tucker plus 260, that looks really good. But you know what? That's not a guarantee. That's not a lock. That's what I feel is a very realistic possibility. And at
Hmm.
those odds, I really like. I know he's going to be competitive. I know the fight's going to be close. Does he
Hmm.
get the decision? We will see. But
Yeah.
to back that up, I'm doing separate parlays where the fight's going to go the distance.
Yeah. And you also think Yafai wins too, right? I mean, Yafai is he's risk
Yes.
at risk,
Yeah.
but it's in England. You'd figure that's a solid addition to a parlay as well. Yafai just to win the fight, right? I mean,
Yeah. And listen, all three of those five fights that we covered, I mean, those are live opponents. With Simpson being the livest of the three, I feel, because
yeah.
I do feel that he has a real good chance of pulling the upset.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's uh that's this week's Tommy and Paulie's big fight forecast. If you guys are interested, tune into us. We're gonna be here weekly discussing the fights, but more so discussing the odds. The
And we
discussing
got we
odds.
got a big one next week. You know what next week is, right?
But
Jake Paul.
oh
That's a
yeah,
big show.
that's a lot of money coming into the Jake Paul fights.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a lot, there's all the degenerates come out for the Jake Paul fight.
yeah.
And Chavez is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. So we hope you guys tune in for us next week with Jake Paul and Chavez, and maybe we'll go over some of these picks as well. How they did and so on and so forth. That's Tommy Rainone. I'm Paulie Malignaggi. This is Tommy and Paulie's Big Fight Forecast. We'll see you next time.